Hundreds have already fallen sick, hospital beds are filling, and lawsuits are stacking against Costco's Kirkland Foods. Now even Elon Musk is warning that what you thought was a bargain may actually be a ticking time bomb. How can a brand that built its empire on trust and low prices serve products linked to contamination, pesticides, and chemicals at levels no family should endure? Kirkland's glossy labels whisper organic and safe. But behind that carton, that bottle, or that pack of meat lies evidence of suffering and shortcuts that endanger millions. If Elon Musk, a man obsessed with the future of humanity, publicly cautions against buying these 8 Kirkland foods, should we still believe that is harmless? Or are we fooling ourselves into swallowing poison wrapped in bulk discounts? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today we tear open the illusion and expose 8 Kirkland foods you shouldn't buy at Costco. Let's begin. Number 1. Kirkland Shrimp. It just sits there, neatly stacked behind the frosty glass at Costco. The Kirkland shrimp bag puffed up like a balloon of false promises. Bright colors, patriotic branding, and that frozen sparkle whisper to shoppers. Safe, affordable, and plenty. But let's be brutally honest. How many times have you stared at that bag, felt something gnaw at the back of your mind, and still tossed it in the cart because, well, the rent is due, the car needs gas, and your paycheck won't stretch another aisle? This shrimp is a bargain-priced gamble where the house always wins, and you, the customer, are set up to lose. Why are we still forced to choose between food that's dangerous and food that's unaffordable? The Food and Drug Administration has already put the writing on the wall. Shipments from Vietnam, India, and Bangladesh, which are countries supplying Kirkland, were repeatedly flagged for chloramphenicol and nitrofurazone. Those chemicals are so dangerous they're outlawed in American farming. In 2023 alone, more than 3,000 lines of shrimp imports from these nations were seized. Turns out they're all linked to bone marrow failure and also a proven carcinogen. Think about that the next time you pop a shrimp into cocktail sauce. It isn't seasoning you're tasting, but the slow erosion of your body. How does one with brittle health stand a chance against toxins this ruthless? And how can anyone defend Costco when the evidence stacks higher than their warehouse shelves? But poison is only the appetizer. Peel deeper and you uncover the bitter truth of labor behind the product. Investigations by the Outlaw Ocean Project revealed shrimp plants in Thailand, another Kirkland source, where trafficked workers and even children toil 16-hour shifts. Imagine the shrimp you eat last week passing through the raw, chemical-burned fingers of a 12-year-old who sleeps on concrete and hasn't eaten a full meal in days. And yet, when being asked, Costco offers the corporate equivalent of a shrug, saying they take ethics seriously. That's like a fox standing in a henhouse insisting it takes chickens seriously. Technically true, but for all the wrong reasons. As if that weren't enough, the specter of radiation now hovers over the oceans. Since Japan's Fukushima wastewater release in 2024, traces of cesium-137 have spread into Asian waters, contaminating seafood sources across Indonesia and Taiwan. And worse, US law doesn't force retailers to reveal the exact ponds or regions where blended seafood originates. So when you grab that Kirkland bag, you're buying uncertainty. Would you let a stranger blindfold you, spin you around, and tell you to pick between soup or uranium stew? Yet every trip down the freezer aisle is exactly that game. The cruel irony is that most shoppers already sense the danger. They see headlines, they hear murmurs, they carry that unease, but still, they buy. Why? Because $14.99 for 2 pounds feels like survival when insulin, rent, and gas bills are waiting at the door. Because Costco has drilled into our heads that buying in bulk is buying safe, but the real cost is buried in hospital bills. When a contaminated shrimp outbreak in 2021 hospitalized 6 Americans and sickened dozens more, why did it not ignite outrage strong enough to tighten this system of neglect? Are we waiting for the body count to climb higher before waking up? And yet alternatives exist, though they often hide in plain sight. Shrimp from Florida's Blue House Farms are traceable and antibiotic-free. Wild Patagonia red shrimp from Whole Foods carries the flavor of clean ocean waters, untouched by factory ponds. Even plant-based versions from Good Catch or the plant-based seafood fruits shock the tongue with flavor, minus the chemicals and child labor. And isn't it time to start asking ourselves, is saving a few dollars worth trading our health and our children's safety? Or is it finally time to look beyond the freezer glass and admit that silence, the shrug, the teask, the one more time won't hurt, is the most toxic ingredient of all? Number 2. Kirkland almond milk. A carton of almond milk looks so innocent. Slim, beige, and stamped with promises like organic and plant-based. For many, it feels like the safer choice, a way to protect the heart, dodge dairy, or shave a few points off the cholesterol count. Kirkland's version makes the temptation even stronger because Costco has managed to turn health itself into a bulk bargain. But every smooth pour hides something jagged. This is not a drink of compassion, it's a drain on rivers, a weight on workers, and a quiet theft of resources that most Americans never agreed to lose. 1/2 gallon of almond milk contains the essence of more than 80 almonds, which demands over 100 gallons of water to produce. Kirkland's pushed. Suppliers rooted deep in California's Central Valley have been accused of pulling an estimated 1.2 billion gallons of groundwater each year, enough to supply 20,000 people with drinking water, while ordinary families in California have been fined for watering their lawns or told to shower in 4 minutes flat. Costco's cartons slide out of drought-stricken fields and into warehouses without interruption. If this imbalance doesn't make your throat tighten, ask yourself, how long can a state survive when one corporation's milk is worth more than its people's taps? But thirst is only half the story. In 2021, affidavits from 16 seasonal workers surfaced, describing pesticide exposure, withheld pay, and brutal retaliation. One 67-year-old worker collapsed into acute respiratory failure, his lungs scorched by chemicals sprayed without protection. He lived but jobless and saddled with medical debt that will likely outlast him. Multiply his story by thousands of anonymous hands, and suddenly that creamy glass looks less like health and more like exploitation in liquid form. Why should a retiree sipping on unsweetened organic unknowingly swallow another man's suffering? The cruelest trick lies in the label. Kirkland proudly flaunts USDA organic certification, but federal loopholes mean that processors aren't required to trace farm-level labor or water practices. As long as the almond passes the chemical test, everything else, the stolen water, the scarred lungs, the buried scandals, stays invisible. And so customers are lulled into a belief that the milk is clean, when in reality it is only scrubbed of evidence. Now the cracks are spreading. A 2025 lawsuit in California is pressuring Costco to disclose its sourcing maps. If judges force the company to reveal aquifer depletion in forbidden zones, the fallout could shake shelves across America. Imagine headlines screaming not of bacteria recalls, but of ecological crimes. Imagine Kirkland's almond milk vanishing overnight, leaving shoppers staring at empty space where cartons used to be. Could lawsuits and environmental protests snowball until almond milk becomes the next tobacco, legal but socially toxic? Or will consumers keep sipping even as the fields run dry? And so the choice lands in your kitchen. You can keep pouring from a carton tied to drought and despair, rationalizing because the price tag fits your pension. Or you can pivot toward brands like Malk Organics or 3 Trees, which practice regenerative farming and protect their workers. Even simpler, 10 minutes with a blender and a handful of almonds, and you can make your own. Or take it further. Sunflower milk uses 90% less water, offering a future where conscience doesn't curdle with every sip. But let's not kid ourselves. The real question isn't just which milk. It's whether we'll keep allowing corporations to bottle up our resources and our humanity for profit. What if every gulp is less about your health and more about someone else's drought, someone else's debt? And when the glass runs dry, will Costco be the one thirsting? Or will it be you? Number 3. Kirkland ground beef. It sits there in Costco's coolers, glowing red like a symbol of strength, a promise that no matter how tight your budget, you can still feed a family with hearty protein. Kirkland's ground beef has been woven into the fabric of everyday meals. Burgers sizzling on the grill, meatloaf stretching through the week, casseroles feeding the grandkids. It feels ordinary, almost sacred in its normalcy, but that red shine is a disguise. Beneath the plastic lies meat laced with bacteria, processed in chaos, and tied to outbreaks that have sickened hundreds and claimed lives. The very food meant to nourish has already sent families to funerals. In 2019, nearly 40,000 pounds of ground beef processed by Costco's supplier, JBS Tolleson, were recalled after salmonella poisoned 246 people across 26 states. 4 of them never made it home. Most victims were children and seniors, the ones least able to survive the blow. And Kirkland ground beef wasn't pulled until federal regulators forced Costco's hand. How many more ate contaminated beef before the alarm finally rang? The system behind Kirkland Beef is a machine moving too fast for safety. Slaughterhouses process up to 400 cows per hour, carcasses colliding like cars on a highway pileup. One contaminated animal brushes against another, and suddenly thousands of pounds are tainted. A USDA inspector turned whistleblower revealed that fecal matter was found on up to 3% of carcasses during random checks. 3% sounds small until you realize it equals hundreds of pounds of manure being ground invisibly into your burgers. Ask yourself, how many families sat around the table smiling at their plates without realizing they were eating meat laced with filth? Costco insists it has stringent safety protocols, but the reality is bleak. Testing is done on batches, not every pound. A contaminated lot can slide through if one random sample tests clean. That's not oversight, it's roulette. And instead of bullets, the chamber holds E. coli 0157:H7, a pathogen that can shred kidneys in children and elderly victims. Doctors call it hemolytic uremic syndrome. For families, it means dialysis machines, hospital bills, and the kind of suffering no discount can justify. And tomorrow may be even worse. Reports in 2024 exposed that major processors, including those tied to Costco, have been blending imported beef trim from Brazil and Uruguay into product of USA packages. These imports come from regions scarred by deforestation, weak oversight, and rampant antibiotic misuse. Mix that with America's fractured inspection system, and the recipe is ready for disaster. Antibiotic-resistant salmonella, wider outbreaks, and recalls issued only after the damage is done. How many more headlines will it take before trust finally breaks? Yet millions still grab Kirkland ground beef because $4.99 a pound looks like salvation when every cent matters. You tell yourself, if it were truly dangerous, it wouldn't be on the shelf. But logos don't kill bacteria, and brand reputations don't heal kidneys. The quiet truth is that many families buy it not because they trust it, but because they feel trapped into trusting it. But there is an escape. Regional co-ops like Dakota Grass-Fed Beef or Strauss Brands provide traceability from farm to package. For families counting pennies, ground turkey like Butterball Naturals is often the same price or cheaper, with fewer bacterial issues flagged by USDA data. Or step away from meat entirely. Lentil or lupini-based crumbles can build tacos, chili, or spaghetti sauce without turning your dinner table into a gamble. So pause before you reach for Kirkland's family pack. Will you keep rolling the dice with every burger, hoping your household doesn't become another statistic? How long before the illusion of savings collapses under the weight of hospital bills and funerals? And the most chilling thought, what if the next recall notice, the one tied to kidney failure or worse, is already sitting quietly in your freezer right now? Number 4. Kirkland Cage, free eggs. Eggs should mean comfort, Sunday mornings, golden yolks, and a feeling of simplicity you can trust. Kirkland cage-free eggs sell that dream with images of hens roaming sunny fields and words like humane splashed across the carton. But scratch the surface and the story curdles. Behind the marketing lies a factory system where cage-free is little more than legal trickery, and the cost of each egg is measured not in dollars, but in misery and risk. Animal welfare groups have filmed the truth inside Kirkland's supply chain. Barns crammed with tens of thousands of birds, many with broken wings or festering sores, their beaks cut by trimming blades. Mortality at one California supplier reportedly topped 12% in a single year. That's tens of thousands of hens dying slow deaths, their bodies sometimes left rotting among the living. Does that sound like freedom or just a clever rebrand of cruelty? The danger spills beyond the barns. In 2021, a salmonella outbreak from cage-free eggs sickened over 1,500 Americans, with nearly 400 hospitalized. Elderly victims are especially vulnerable. Måste ju inte ta mortally, as salmonella can spread to the blood and kill. Costco hides behind third-party suppliers, but with inspections rare and supply chains murky, every cracked Kirkland egg is a spin of the roulette wheel. And what happens when the odds catch up? Politics deepen the betrayal. Kirkland suppliers have poured hundreds of thousands into lobbying against tougher cage-free standards, all while selling customers on the illusion of higher welfare. It's the food industry's version of a car dealer bragging about safety while fighting against seatbelts. And millions of families pay into that system, believing their dollars are pushing change, when in truth, they're funding resistance. The road ahead looks darker still. With avian flu already wiping out millions of birds in 2024, industry insiders predict barns will get tighter, cleaning cycles shorter, and pathogens more common as suppliers scramble to replace lost production. The future could bring recalls not of thousands, but millions of Kirkland eggs, stripping shelves bare and leaving seniors, who depend on cheap protein, without safe choices. And yet shoppers shrug. Why? Because at $7.99, Kirkland eggs seem like a deal. Better than cages. But maybe that compromise is the very reason the system never improves. What if every carton you buy is a vote to keep both hens and consumers trapped in the same loop of lies? Alternatives exist. Vital Farms pasture-raised eggs, local farmers markets, or even flaxseed and powdered substitutes that dodge the filth entirely. So tomorrow morning, when you crack open that Kirkland egg, will you be serving nourishment, or swallowing someone else's suffering fried sunny side up? Number 5. Kirkland Chicken Bake. The Kirkland Chicken Bake feels like Costco's edible handshake. Warm, cheesy, and wrapped in foil that tells you, relax, we've got dinner covered. For many working families and retirees, it's the treat after the warehouse slog, or the frozen box you slide into the oven for $12.99 when energy runs low. But peel back that comfort, and what you're biting into isn't really chicken wrapped in dough. It's a chemical sponge disguised as dinner, a meal engineered more for shelf life than for your health. In 2022, FDA spot checks flagged residues of quaternary ammonium compounds, chemicals used in poultry plant disinfectants, inside processed frozen chicken meals, including Kirkland's Chicken Bake. The levels tested were more than triple the safety threshold. QACs aren't just industrial cleaners. Studies have linked them to asthma, hormonal disruption, and fertility decline. One peer-reviewed study tied long-term exposure to a 20% higher risk of respiratory illness. How many seniors already battling fragile lungs unknowingly inhaled more danger with every bite? Even without the cleaning agents, the numbers tell a story Costco would rather hide. Each chicken bake packs over 740 calories, 25 grams of fat, and 1,500 milligrams of sodium, 2/3 of a senior's recommended daily salt intake. A 2023 study in the Hypertension Journal found that meals above 1,200 milligrams of sodium spiked stroke risk in older adults by 34% within 48 hours. Think about that. A single chicken bake can push a retiree straight toward the ER, yet it's sold as if it were a harmless grab-and-go snack. What makes it sting worse is the psychology. You see chicken, you think lean protein. You see Costco, you think bulk value. But inside, it's less chicken than chemistry. Sodium phosphate to hold water, potassium lactate for preservation, nitrates to stretch shelf life. It's not a home-cooked meal. It's closer to an industrial experiment sealed in pastry. And still, shoppers grab it because convenience feels like survival when gas, rent, and medicine already eat the paycheck. And tomorrow, industry insiders warn that poultry plants, hammered by avian flu losses and rising costs, are cutting corners. Stronger disinfectants, shorter cleaning cycles, even blending in imported trimmings with weaker oversight. The direction points one way: more chemicals, more contamination, and greater risks of a recall too late to protect the people who trusted that foil-wrapped bargain. Imagine headlines in 2026. Frozen dinner tragedy. Costco recalls millions after seniors sickened. The tragedy wouldn't be sudden. It would be the natural result of choices already made today. You can sidestep the trap. Amy's Kitchen burritos use organic beans and vegetables. Evel lean and fit chicken meals stay under 600 milligrams of sodium, and both taste like actual food, not disinfectant residue. Or make a batch of homemade calzones with rotisserie chicken from a local grocer. Freeze them yourself. Cut both chemicals and guilt in half. The question is whether convenience should come laced with risk. When you unwrap the next chicken bake, are you feeding comfort or swallowing mop water from a poultry plant dressed up as dinner? Number 6. Kirkland Bottled Water. Kirkland Bottled Water looks harmless. 40 bottles for $3.99, stacked high in Costco carts, trusted by seniors and families as the cheapest form of safety. But this is not purity in plastic. It's stolen groundwater and invisible pollution sold back to the very people who once owned it. During California's worst droughts, watchdogs revealed Kirkland's supplier pumped over 130 million gallons a year from San Bernardino aquifers, paying just $524 for permits. Meanwhile, families faced fines for watering lawns, and firefighters begged for resources. Imagine watching your well run dry, then seeing Costco trucks haul that same water away, shrink-wrapped and resold to you at a markup. The water inside isn't clean either. A Columbia University study in 2023 found 240,000 plastic particles per liter in bottled water. Consumer Reports tests flagged Kirkland for microplastic contamination. These particles, small enough to enter blood and organs, are linked to hormone disruption, infertility, and even neurological damage. For seniors, every sip could mean plastic shards settling in kidneys and liver. The future looks worse. Regulators in 2025 may revoke pumping permits, which could collapse Kirkland's supply chain overnight. And scientists warn microplastics may soon carry cancer labels. Imagine opening a Costco case stamped, "This product contains particles known to cause cancer." Will shoppers still load up carts? Better paths exist. A Zero Water filter strips contaminants for pennies. Just Water sells cartons from renewable springs. And even boiling tap water at home in glass bottles beats paying corporations to sell back what was once yours. The question is simple. When you drink Kirkland water, are you quenching thirst or swallowing your own exploitation? Number 7. Kirkland soy milk. Soy milk carries the glow of health. Gentler on aging stomachs, lighter on cholesterol, and often chosen by seniors trying to stay strong. Kirkland signature soy milk leans on that reputation. It's carton-stamped organic, its price low enough to feel like Costco is looking out for you. But beneath the beige pour lies something far darker. Fraudulent sourcing, pesticide residues, and corporate sleight of hand that makes every sip a gamble. Watchdogs uncovered in 2020 that giant overseas processors, feeding into Costco's supply chain, were relabeling GMO soybeans as organic. A USDA audit in 2021 found nearly 40% of organic soy shipments from Turkey were fraudulent. Independent labs even found glyphosate, Monsanto's infamous weed killer, in Kirkland soy milk. 80 parts per billion in a 2022 test, levels higher than competitors. That same chemical was central to Monsanto's $11 billion cancer settlements, tied to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. So while the carton whispers purity, your body may be drinking risk. The betrayal runs deeper. In 2021, Costco lobbied against stricter traceability rules for imported organics. Translation: keeping paperwork light means keeping customers in the dark. Local U.S. soybean farmers, already struggling, were sidelined in favor of cheap, questionable imports. What should have been support for American growers turned into economic abandonment. And the future? USDA officials warned fraudulent organic imports may spike as demand outpaces supply. That means more glyphosate, more GMO beans, and likely recalls. If regulators act, imagine 2026 headlines: organic soy milk recall, thousands exposed. Or worse, imagine silence as settlements bury the truth while shoppers keep pouring it into their morning coffee. Alternatives exist. West Soy Organic, made with verified U.S. beans, or Elmhurst, which openly lists sourcing. Even homemade soy milk. Just beans, water, and a blender. Offers control. The real question is this: how long will we let organic be a lullaby that hides betrayal in every pour? Number 8. Kirkland Bacon. Bacon has always been America's guilty grin. Crispy, smoky, irresistible on Sunday mornings. Kirkland Bacon sells that fantasy in bulk, jumbo packs whispering both savings and satisfaction. But behind the sizzle hides cruelty, pollution, and chemicals that turn breakfast into betrayal. Much of Kirkland's bacon comes from Smithfield Foods, owned by China's WH Group. Investigations in 2021 showed mother pigs locked in crates so small they couldn't turn around, gnawing steel bars until their bodies bled. Mortality at some barns topped 15% yearly. Hundreds of thousands of animals dead before slaughter, yet still the bacon flowed, plastic wrapped in Costco cheer. Communities pay, too. Smithfield has faced lawsuits for polluting poor, mostly black neighborhoods in North Carolina, where lagoons of pig waste created clouds of fecal mist. In 2020, a federal court upheld $94 million in damages for residents battling chronic illness. Still, Costco kept stocking Kirkland bacon, turning human suffering into collateral damage for BLTs. And the strips themselves? Lab tests in 2022 found nitrosamines, cancer-linked chemicals, at alarming levels. The WHO warns eating just 2 strips of bacon daily raises colorectal cancer risk by 18%. For seniors on fixed incomes, leaning on Kirkland bacon as cheap protein, that's not indulgence, it's entrapment. The future looms darker. With tariffs and financial strain squeezing suppliers, cost-cutting likely means dirtier farms, heavier preservatives, and even more risk. Picture a headline in 2027. Costco bacon pulled over cancer-causing chemicals. Will Costco defend its shoppers, or quietly repackage poison? Alternatives exist. Neiman Ranch and Applegate Naturals sell humane, lower nitrate bacon. Sweet Earth Tempeh bacon delivers smoky joy without animal or community suffering. The question lingers. When you smell that sizzle, are you smelling breakfast or the quiet rot of a system feeding you lies? The real cost of cheap food is hidden suffering. Subscribe now, share your voice, and demand truth before silence swallows us.
Thanks a lot for sticking with us to the very end. If you found this video useful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss any daily uploads. And now, go ahead and explore some of our top recommended videos popping up on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.